The night everything changed began with soft jazz, clinking glasses, and polite laughter drifting through the banquet hall. My mother, Elellanar Hartley, had just turned 85, and she looked radiant under the warm chandelier light. Pearls rested at her throat. A pale blue dress fell perfectly over her narrow frame. People kept saying how lucky she was to have lived such a long, graceful life. I almost believed them. Then my son, Noah Turner, leaned in close, his voice stripped of its usual calm. "Mom, get your purse. We are leaving now. No questions." His tone chilled me more than the December air outside. Noah had never spoken like that to me, not even after my divorce, not even when he lost his job and stood in my kitchen pretending it didn't hurt. He took my wrist gently, but firmly enough that I felt the urgency in his pulse. "Just walk," he whispered. "Smile, nod, do not look back." My sister, Emily, stood at the microphone, thanking everyone for coming, her smile wide and glittering like the sequins on her dress. She waved at me across the room, unaware that my feet were already moving toward the exit. For a moment, I wanted to stay, to cut the cake, to dance with Noah like we planned. But something in his eyes told me life wasn't offering choices tonight. The party was still alive behind us, bright and warm. Yet with every step, I felt a door closing inside me, and another one opening. We reached the parking lot before I found my voice again. Cold air hit my skin like a warning, sharp and sobering. Noah locked the car, opened the passenger door, and waited for me to sit. His hands were trembling, just slightly, the way they used to when he was a boy, struggling to tell the truth after breaking a vase or scraping his knees. I slid into the seat, he closed the door gently, walked around, and sat beside me. For a long moment, he simply breathed, eyes fixed on the glowing windows of the hall, where the celebration continued without us. Inside, Eleanor was laughing, Emily was raising a toast. Life looked perfect, but perfection can be a mask. Noah finally spoke, voice low, controlled. "Mom, I overheard something you need to hear. It is about Grandma, about what they plan to do to her." My stomach tightened. I wanted to deny it. I wanted to believe nothing dangerous could exist inside a family photo frame. But Noah reached into his coat and pulled out his phone with slow precision. As if afraid the truth might spill too fast, he pressed play. Emily's voice filled the car. Calm, sweet, familiar, too familiar. She said the documents were signed this morning. She now held full authority over Eleanor's medical and financial decisions. She called it power of attorney. Daniel answered casually, almost bored, saying the old woman never suspected anything. He laughed, proud of how easy it was. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear the rest. But Noah let the recording continue, because I had to hear it. I had to know how deep the betrayal went. Daniel mentioned selling the house, a nursing home, Monday morning, just 3 days from now. I covered my mouth to stop a sound I didn't recognize. Maybe it was grief. Maybe it was disbelief. Maybe both. Noah watched me with those steady eyes. "Mom," he said softly, "we are not imagining this. They are planning to take everything from her. Everything." And suddenly, the birthday party became a crime scene. The recording played on, and every second felt like a needle pushed deeper beneath my skin. Emily, my own sister, spoke with the ease of someone planning a vacation, not the dismantling of our mother's life. She said the nursing home already had a room prepared, a private wing, security, no visitors unless approved. Daniel replied that once Eleanor was moved, they could list the house quietly, maybe even under market price to speed up the sale, as if our mother was furniture to be relocated, as if her memories, her garden beds, her wedding china meant nothing. When the recording stopped, silence filled the car like thick fog. Noah didn't rush me. He simply waited, giving me space to fall apart or gather myself. I chose something in between. "How long have you known?" I whispered. "Weeks." He kept his voice steady, but guilt flickered across his face. "I tried to get proof before saying anything. I needed you to believe me." He reached into the glove compartment and handed me a second item, a small amber bottle, half full. I stared at the label printed neatly in white. Lorazepam, strong dosage. "Daniel dropped this at Grandma's last week," Noah said. "I think they've been testing how much she can take without anyone noticing." Something inside me recoiled. I pictured my mother's gentle hand shaking as she watered her violets. I remembered how she forgot my birthday once, then cried for hours. At the time, I told myself age, stress, maybe natural decline. But now I wondered how much of her fading memory was hers and how much was engineered. Noah leaned back, eyes hardening. We cannot let them move her. Not Monday, not ever. A slow, burning clarity settled into me. I had spent years believing family could be flawed, but still safe. Tonight, that belief cracked like thin ice. There was no room for hesitation. Not anymore. We were no longer just relatives. We were opponents in a quiet war, and I intended to win. A pulse of anger and fear crashed through me all at once. My mother was inside that hall, smiling beneath a glittering banner that read 85 and still glowing, unaware of the storm gathering around her. I gripped the bottle of lorazepam until the cap bit into my palm. Noah watched me like a soldier waiting for command. His eyes were steady, not cold, just focused in a way that reminded me he was no longer a child. He was a man now, and he was asking me to choose. We cannot confront them alone, he said. If we do, they will deny everything. They will move faster. We need evidence, and we need help. His voice didn't shake. Mine did. Do we call the police? I asked. He nodded once. It was enough. My fingers hovered over the screen. Dialing 911 felt like betrayal, but not dialing felt worse. I imagined Eleanor waking up in a locked facility, confused and afraid, stripped of her home and her autonomy. I imagined Emily signing forms with neat handwriting, smiling to herself. I pressed the call button. The dispatcher answered. I heard my own voice as if spoken through someone else, calm in tone, but burning at the edges. I reported suspected financial and medical abuse of an elderly woman. I reported forged documents, controlled medication, and imminent transfer to a nursing home. The dispatcher's voice sharpened. Officers were coming soon. For a moment, Noah and I just sat there, breath held between hope and dread. Then the dispatcher said something unexpected. If you can re-enter the event safely, stay close. Do not alert the suspects until officers arrive. Maintain normal behavior. Normal? As if anything was normal anymore. Noah met my gaze, his hand closed around mine. We were going back inside. Re-entering that banquet hall felt like walking barefoot across broken glass. Every step was quiet, deliberate, rehearsed in my head like lines from a play I never auditioned for. Noah walked half a step behind me, the way he used to when he was small and afraid of crowds. Only this time, he wasn't hiding from the world. He was bracing to confront it. The music was louder than before. Someone was dancing near the dessert table. Cameras flashed. A friend from Eleanor's book club waved at me, unaware that my heart was pounding like fists against a locked door. My eyes scanned the room for Emily and Daniel, but first I found my mother instead, sitting at the head of the table, cheeks rosy, telling a story about my father's old fishing trip. She looked peaceful, safe, untouched by the darkness circling her life. For a moment, I almost broke. I wanted to run to her, take her hand, tell her everything, but the dispatcher's instruction echoed like a warning bell. Stay normal. Do not alert the suspects. Emily appeared at my elbow, smiling too brightly. You disappeared on us, she said, voice dipped in honey. Everything all right? I returned her smile, matching sweetness with a steadiness she couldn't read. Just a quick call. Work. You know how it is. She nodded, accepting the lie without question. Or perhaps she was too confident to suspect anything. Daniel joined her seconds later, carrying a small velvet pouch. He set it gently beside Eleanor's teacup, as though offering something precious. Inside was loose-leaf herbal tea, the kind my mother loved. Chamomile, lavender, or valerian, blended soft as a lullaby. My stomach dropped. Noah's hand brushed mine under the tablecloth, discreet but deliberate. A silent message. Wait for proof. Wait for the moment. Emily lifted the pouch and offered to steep a cup for Eleanor. I watched her measure the leaves, saw the faint shimmer of white powder clinging to the edge of the spoon. My pulse hammered. I felt the room tilt. Eleanor laughed, unaware, reaching toward the cup. Before she touched it, I moved. Let me make it for her, I said, voice calm but anchored in steel. You organized the whole night. Sit, enjoy. Emily hesitated, just for a breath. just long enough for suspicion to flicker, faint but real. "Of course," she said lightly, "you've always made tea better than anyone." Compliment or bait? I couldn't tell. I carried the cup to the sideboard, where the kettle steamed softly like a living thing exhaling. My hands moved with practiced calm. Scoop, pour, steep, but my mind was razor sharp. Noah positioned himself just behind Eleanor's chair, casual enough not to draw attention, alert enough to spring if needed. Emily drifted closer, voice quiet, almost confiding. "Mom needs stability, you know? Routine, structure. We can't keep pretending she's the same woman she was at 70. She phrased it like concern, like love wearing sensible shoes. I stirred the tea. "Is that why you signed power of attorney?" I asked without turning. My tone was smooth, conversational, as if I were discussing weather instead of betrayal. She froze barely, then recovered. "Someone has to be responsible," she replied. "You're busy, Noah has his life. Grandma trusts me." Trust. The word tasted bitter as the tea swirling below. I returned to the table, placed the cup gently in front of Eleanor. She reached for it with delicate fingers. The room blurred. My pulse counted each second like a countdown. I leaned in, brushing a strand of her silver hair from her cheek. "Not yet, Mom," I said softly. "It needs to cool." Emily's smile tightened. Daniel shifted in his seat. A silent ripple passed between them, almost invisible to anyone not looking for it. Noah whispered near my ear, voice barely breath. "Cops are 5 minutes out." 5 minutes. Long enough for everything to collapse, long enough for everything to be saved. As the tea steamed between us like a secret, I realized we'd reached the center of the maze. No more recordings, no more waiting in parking lots. We were inside the storm now, and they were finally starting to feel the wind. The only question left was who would break first. The tension at the table thickened, invisible but unmistakable like air before lightning strikes. Emily's fingers tapped the stem of her wineglass, too rhythmic, too controlled. Daniel scanned the room, eyes darting toward the exit as if mapping escape routes. And between us sat my mother, smiling softly, unaware that her fate balanced on threads of silence and seconds. Then, without warning, the room went dark. The chandelier's glow collapsed into blackness. Music choked mid-note, and startled gasps echoed off the walls. Only the red emergency bulbs flickered to life, casting everyone in crimson like we'd been dropped into the heart of a warning siren. I couldn't see my sister, but I felt movement, quick, sharp, purposeful. Chairs scraped, someone cursed under their breath. Then came the sound I feared the most. "Mom, we need to get you out of here." It was Daniel, his voice too urgent to be mistaken for concern. I shot to my feet, heart pounding like fists against a locked door. Noah mirrored me instantly. Through the dim glow, we saw Daniel lifting Eleanor's elbow, guiding her out of her chair. She looked confused, fragile, her eyes wide like a child trying to make sense of a dream. "Stop." I stepped forward, voice low but shaking with steel. "Do not take her anywhere." Daniel didn't answer. He only tightened his grip and began moving toward the side exit, using the blackout as cover. Noah moved fast, intercepting him with a force I'd never seen in my son. He wasn't the boy who once froze during baseball tryouts. He was a shield now, and nothing was getting past him. Guests murmured, frightened, unaware of what was unfolding inches from their celebration cake. Emily reached for her purse, not to help, but to grab something. Documents, keys, evidence of her plan. Then blue lights flashed through the windows. Police, finally. The room erupted in confusion the moment the flashing blue lights spilled through the windows like cold water over a fire. Officers entered with steady steps, hands on holsters, but voices calm, trained, prepared for more than the chaos in front of them. Party guests backed away, whispers rising like a tide as they realized this wasn't a power outage. Something bigger was unraveling. Daniel tried to pull Eleanor closer, shielding her behind him as if he were the victim, not the architect. But Noah stood firm between them, shoulders squared, jaw set, eyes sharp with a resolve I had never fully seen until that moment. He looked like a man who had chosen his lineage, and it wasn't betrayal. One of the officers approached. "Sir, drop your hands. Step away from the elderly woman." Emily rushed forward, voice dripping urgency. "This is a misunderstanding. My sister is confused. Noah is emotional. We were only helping our mother." But the spotlight had shifted. The mask no longer fit. The officer looked straight at me. "Ma'am, is there evidence of coercion or planned relocation without consent?" I held up the recording on Noah's phone. Then I held up the bottle of lorazepam. The transformation was instant. Officers moved to separate Daniel and Emily. One restrained the doctor, who had tried to slip toward the exit unnoticed. Eleanor watched, eyes filling with something that hurt deeper than shock. Recognition. She lifted her trembling hand to her chest. "Why?" she whispered. Not to me, not to the officers, to her daughter. Emily's shoulders sagged, as if truth itself pressed down on her. She tried once more to speak, but words dissolved in her throat. The room, still half-lit and trembling from the blackout, waited for the answer that never came. Interviews began right there in the banquet hall, tables still set with untouched cake slices and half-emptied glasses of champagne. Guests stood frozen in clusters, as if movement might shatter the moment into something they could no longer deny. Officers reviewed the recording twice, examined the bottle of medication, photographed the tea and spoons still dusted with residue. Every detail, every whisper, every secret that once hid beneath family dinners came to light under blue and red police strobes. But revelation didn't end at the party. 2 detectives escorted Emily and Daniel to separate corners of the room for questioning. Their confidence wilted. Daniel's voice changed first, sharp pride replaced by stumbling half-truths. Emily tried to hold herself together, chin lifted, eyes glossy, but her hands trembled. Authority she once wielded like a weapon slipped through her fingers like water. In the hours that followed, the investigation swept beyond the hall into offices and patient files, through hospital signatures and pharmacy transactions. Dr. Howard's records revealed more than forgetfulness. They showed a pattern: signed evaluations declaring cognitive decline where none existed, recommendations to nursing facilities that curiously aligned with property sales, a system disguised as care built on profit and silence. 12 elders, 12 families, all nearly erased with paperwork. Eleanor sat in a private room, giving her statement, Noah beside her, steady as a lighthouse. She spoke slowly, voice thin but brave, recalling each odd moment, the misplaced keys, the dizziness after tea visits, the sudden confusion she once blamed on age. She looked at me then, eyes wet but clear. "They wanted me to disappear, Rachel." "No," I replied. "They wanted your voice gone, but it is still here, and now the world was listening." In the weeks that followed, hearings unfolded like chapters in a book no one wanted to read. Evidence built itself piece by piece: bank transfers, altered prescriptions, real estate inquiries made in Eleanor's name without her permission, Emily's voice on the recording, Daniel's fingerprints on the medication bottle, Dr. Howard's falsified reports stamped with signatures he could no longer defend. The law moved slowly, but it did move. Daniel accepted a plea first, his bravado gone like a mask dropped on a stage after the audience has already left. He faced charges for attempted medical manipulation and elder exploitation. Dr. Howard followed, losing his license along with his freedom. Emily held out longest, eyes hollow, face drawn, still clinging to the fantasy that love could forgive intentions built on greed. But justice has its own pulse, and it never beats for convenience. On the morning of sentencing, Eleanor stood with a cane and dignity that no document could steal. The courtroom fell silent as she spoke, not with anger, not with revenge, but with clarity earned through surviving betrayal. "I raised my children to care for me, not to own me. Love is not power, and power without love is cruelty." Her voice trembled only once. Noah slipped his hand into mine, and I realized we hadn't just saved her, we had saved something in ourselves: the belief that family is not defined by blood, but by the way we protect one another when it matters most. Emily wept then, quiet, broken, too late. Outside the courthouse, sunlight warmed Eleanor's shoulders like a blessing. We drove home together, 3 generations, no longer leaking trust, but repairing it, slow, real, earned. And as the world moved on, I carried one truth like a compass: when love is used as a weapon, justice must become the shield.